I finally got it off. Well, near enough, but look at this. Look at this mess. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Rover Turbo. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out. Like this video and comment down below. So this is part 6 on the Range Rover saga / project. In this video I've had to do a voiceover at the beginning because there was a lot of noise going on and the radio was on, copyright stuff, blah blah blah. So, and I've also had to split it into 2 parts as well because there was just way too much to put into one video. It would have been 40 minutes long, and I know a lot of people don't have that attention span. So in this video I'm looking at the handbrake, because the handbrake wasn't very good. Part of the reason why I didn't put it in for an MOT, because the handbrake was absolutely shocking. So, and I found there was some play on one of the rear arms, so I had to replace that. Brake pads, stuff like that. So yeah, look forward to that in this video, and let's get on. Right, I've got the Range Rover in on the ramp. I've already checked the gearbox oil level with it on the level, with the engine running at the correct oil temperature. So that is all good. The gearbox oil level is fine. I'm just checking the handbrake because the handbrake isn't very good. So I'm just taking off the disc because the handbrake shoes are inside the inside of the disc, sort of like a drum inside. So there's on the caliper, I'm just using a screwdriver just to carefully prise back the brake pads, just so the caliper will come off easily. There's 2 16mm bolts that hold the complete carrier onto the axle, which I'm going to take, so the whole caliper then and carrier comes off complete. And then there's a grub screw which holds the disc on, which is a 6mm. I've already tried the 3/8 impact wrench to try and undo this, and it won't undo it. So I've had to put an adapter in there to get it up to 1/2 inch to use the big DeWalt gun, and hoping it doesn't snap off. So basically just easy does it, tease it, and you know it's undone. So that's all good. So now all I need to do is to undo the 2 16mm bolts and take off the whole caliper and carrier. Okay, so on this, just undoing the 2 16mm caliper bolts, or the carrier bolts. So on a car of this age, you know, it's going to be a bit rusty, so just make sure you use a decent socket, and if you need to hammer that socket on there, then do that. So literally I've got a big lever bar on here, so I'm just, you know, cracking it off loose first with the big lever bar just to undo them. So, and I'm just going to do both bolts and then just undo them. So now I'm just undoing the top nut 16mm bolt with a long lever bar. So just undoing that, just slackening them off for the moment because I'm going to use the impact wrench or the ratchet wrench on there to undo all of the bolts. So that's the bottom one, and this is the top one. Using power tools makes things so much quicker, and it also breaks off the rust as well. If you've got a rusty bolt, the impact is going to break it loose better than you using a ratchet or, you know, a manual ratchet. So that's it. And then the caliper, just leaving it off there, and then that comes off. I'm giving the disc here a bit of a tap with the copper hide hammer. I'm using the actual the hide part of the hammer, so not to damage the disc. That's come off relatively easily, so that's all good. So just slipping that off. So the actual shoes, the handbrake shoes and stuff, are actually in really good condition. There's loads of meat left on them, and you know, they just need a good clean up, bit of emery paper on them, bit of a brake clean just to clean up all the brake dust and stuff from inside them, and it needs a good clean on the inside of the any inside of the disc there. So you know that just needs a good clean, and that'll be fine. So I'm just going to give everything a good dosing down with the brake clean, and then give everything a good lubrication with WD. So just get rid of all the brake dust. So I'm just cleaning up the brake shoes with a bit of emery paper just to get rid of the glaze. So you can see on the other side there where I haven't done it, so you can see where it's got the shiny on there. So you can see here the shiny bits, which are the glaze bits. So you know, so that's all good. Then I'm just going to give after I've WD'd it all up, just going to give the handbrake a good movement lever in it there, just to work all the WD and just to loosen up any mechanism stuffs there. So hopefully then I'll just go back and then I'll give it another dosing of WD-40, and and it all looks better. So this is the adjuster, which actually adjusts the handbrake shoes. So you wind that, it's on a screw thread, so you wind that in or out, and it makes that bigger or smaller, which then winds the shoes basically tighter or looser. So what you basically have to do is put the disc on, and then through that little hole you have to, with a screwdriver, you have to line it up, get the hole in the right place so it lines up with that little cog behind. You can just about see it in there, it's a bit difficult to see, but I think I'll get it at an angle in a minute where you can just sort of see that. You get the screwdriver in there, and you basically turn it all the way up or down depending on what side you're doing, until the shoes lock against the inside and completely lock up. So once it's completely locked up, you can't turn it, which is basically there. You can't turn the drum at all. And then what you do is you then put the screwdriver in and wind it back a couple of turns, 2-3 turns, until it just slackens that off, and you can actually then turn the drum with sort of little or no resistance basically. And that's the handbrake adjusted. So that's, you need to do that obviously both sides. So at the moment the handbrake is on, and I can't physically move that wheel at all. It's all my strength. So I've put a lever bar on there just to see, because the wheel's not on there, so I'm just using that as a leverage, and I can't move that. So that's pretty much good. So I'm just going to push it a little bit more just to see how much force it is actually going to take to actually turn it. So it's a reasonable amount of force that it requires to move it. So, and that will obviously get better over time when you use the handbrake. It will bed in and clean off more of the crap and stuff like that. So sometimes it's a good idea, especially on these Range Rovers, to pull the handbrake up, for a few seconds while you're driving along, just to clean, because they don't get used. People just put them in park and they don't actually use the handbrake. So this is what happens. They get all cruddied up. So that's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I've also noticed that the brake pipes are in pretty poor condition, both sides. I'm not happy about the condition of the brake pipes. I probably could have cleaned them up while I brushed them, rust preventative, and painted them, but I didn't want to do that. You can buy complete replacement brake pipes, pretty good price. The actual main copper lines, or the actual main lines, have actually been replaced, which are those there. You can just see they've been replaced. So all the brake pipes have been replaced at the rear. So this pipe here, so from there all the way down, the rubber pipe, the metal pipe, all the way down here and then across, and then they bolt onto the calipers. So both sides. So I've ordered 2 of those, so I'm going to replace those on both sides. I'm just showing you, I don't know why I'm showing you on this side, because you can't see it because the wheel's on. So I'm going to do that, and also I bought some front brake pads as well, so I'm going to replace the front brake pads because they needed doing, so I've got those ready to do. And at this point I thought that the rear pads were good, but I'm trying to convince myself that they're fine in this bit, but they're not. So that rear pad, that inner pad there is pretty bad. So I also ordered a set of rear pads as well. So I'm going to do the front and rear pads, so at least it's got all pads, all new pads all the way around. So yeah. So the new drop link. Obviously been welded up there at some point. And that side as well. Common on these now. New height sensors. The airbags look good. I think it's in the history about the, I think it's had new rear suspension bushes, I believe. So the airbags all look good. So that's nice. Bolted the carrier back on, took the carrier off, wound the piston back in. Bit of ceramic grease. And there, pins cleaned up, tiny small ceramic grease on there. This is the way I do it. And then just wait for the pads to arrive. These two bolts are 7mm. You can get that in there, that's no problem. But you can't get that in there. So you can't even get a ratchet in there. So use a 7mm. In there with a 10mm ratchet spanner on there. Get tight. Riding pins out, and then wear sensor. I'm hoping I can reuse this because it hasn't gone through, it hasn't set off the... No, I'm going to have to replace that. Right, okay. I can do that afterwards because that just slots in. Cold, cold, hard. Even by you. That's it. So just clean up these sliders, hither and hither. The piston wind back tool, and piston back in. What I normally do is spray a bit of WD-40 in the boot. Pull back the boot, spray WD-40 in there. It just helps when you push the piston back, it just lubricates it because it'll be a bit dry in there. So that's it, take the pins out. Clean the pins up on the wire wall. As you can see there, I couldn't leave those on there, so. Right, let's get all this cleaned up. And then this is the arm that I'm replacing. So one bolt that goes through, that one, and then there's a bolt on the other side of this. So I'm hoping I can get a flexi in there and a gun and a ratchet on there, and it will just come undone, hopefully. So there you go, pushed and pushed back quite easily. That went in really, really easily, which is nice. Both sides did that. So I've wire brushed all that off. So I've just got to do the pins and the wire wheel. Always check your brake fluid as well before you start this. Make sure the level's not too high. I got a syringe and took some out because obviously I'd filled it up when I'd done the brake pipe. So that's it, just got to clean these up. So the pins are cleaned up. And I put a little tiny smear of this is ceramic brake grease. I mean, I'd like to know if there's any mechanics or anyone home, what do you do? I mean, generally when these come out, they're covered in, dried up goo. So do you put silicone on them? Do you put silicone grease? Whatever you put on them, it's going to attract dirt. So do you put them on dry? Do you put any grease on them? And I've just put a very light smear on there. And the same goes for here. Again, the ceramic grease. What's your preferred method? What grease do you put on? Copper grease, ceramic grease, silicone grease? What's your opinion? I'd love to hear anybody else's opinion on what they think. How they do it. Basically, that's how I do it. Have done for years. So I've been battling with this arm. I had to cut the bolt off. So this bolt, and it goes in there. It's really difficult to get on. It's really difficult. And the bush was spinning inside, so literally the bolt wouldn't come out. So I had to cut that off, and then using the impact wrench and a pair of mole grips on there, we managed to get the bolt spinning to get it out. And then we've got this one down here which you can't get to because it's so close to the drive shaft. You can't get a socket on there, you can't get anything on there. So I managed to get the bolt undone, and then a 10mm spanner on this hex, and then we've got a 22mm. So luckily it's actually, this is undoing, so hopefully then this will come out so I can get that new arm in there. I've got another bolt which luckily fits. I'll just have to make it work. I finally got it off. Well, near enough, but look at this. Look at this mess. So I finally, you got a little 10mm hex on there, so literally you just have to put a spanner on the end of the 10mm there, and then a socket, and you just have to literally, you can't get any power tools on there, you just have to go open end spanner, a bit at a time, and of course all the thread is all rusted up at the end, so of course it didn't want to come out. Well, if it wasn't buggered before, it is now. So, yeah, got the new one, put it in. So, Euro car parts, got the arm. They're apparently they're left or right, so so they go in either side. So obviously goes in there, and then it goes through there. And then Euros lists 2 different brake pads. Well, there's 3 different brake pads for this registration number, but they've narrowed it down to 2. So we've got 2 different pads, so obviously I'll work out which ones are the right ones and send the rest back. Got the new arm on, bolted through, new bolt on there. I marked where the arm was so I know that hasn't moved. What I've got to do now is put the pads in, and then I'll come back tomorrow, do the fronts. One pad goes in there, one pad goes in there, because there's a metal clip, so it locates in the centre of the hole of the piston. And then literally this just slides on like that, and then you get your 2 pins. Stick one in there. One in there. And then the bottom one, because you can't get anything in between there and there, you have to use an Allen ratchet spanner. That's how I did it. Then once it's on, just check that the piston can slide. And it's sliders, and then there's this little bracket here which goes in there like that. So the easiest way to do it is to put one in like that. It's a bit difficult to do with one hand, sorry, but basically you have to hold that bit on there and then get a lever in there to lever the clip, and it hooks in there. And that's how that goes in there. It just literally hooks in those 2 holes, and then it goes on the surface of the carrier there. So that's it for the brakes. All done, the arm replaced. So I just need to have a massive clean up, and then I'm out of here for tonight. So that's the end of part 6, part 1 on the Range Rover video. So I've just got to compile all the rest of the video to make part 2. So that'll be out very, very soon. And then obviously I can then get this ready for an MOT, which will be exciting. So thanks very much for watching, and can't wait to see you in the next one. Cheers.